So Ross, hi.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us. We're at the ZK AV Club recording station at Dark Prague.
Yeah, maybe it's a butcher.
It was really a pleasure to meet you the other day. We were sitting upstairs, and you started talking about PGP and about ham radio. These are two technologies that I'm very interested in. I've been interested in PGP for a long time and actually practicing with it and using it for encrypted email. It is one of the core technologies of the cypherpunk movement, or maybe even the core that impetus of it. And then ham radio is a fascinating overlap there. Like we're the AV club, so I'm familiar with ham radio, but let's start there. So as far as ham radio goes, how would you describe it to people who don't know about it?
I would describe it as the kind of the culture about learning how radio communication like yanks. So, like, even the microphone we're using right now to record this interview, there are some radio waves, and like most of the people they just see it as a black box. But in the ham radio culture, but in the ham radio community, we try to make sense of what the information going through the radio waves is, right? So you have this culture of like do it yourself and understand how it works. And like the quote unquote traditional ham radio is, yeah, you both have your emitters, you have your transmitters and whatnot, but kind of quote unquote the modern, or rather the young people which is into ham radio, they are actually pushing the boundaries of what you almost call research, right? Um, for example, like one of the things I'm personally interested in is in satellite communications. And as a civilian, I don't have the budget to send a satellite out that line. But as a ham radio, there are satellites I can use, or there are other communication technologies such as LoRa. And yeah, it's the fact that there's already this is infrastructure and this community that yeah will help me understand and also experiment. It's to me that's ham.
It's really cool because it is an old technology, like as we've been able to harness the radio waves.
So here's a very funny thing about that. Something that people don't usually know is that we have hams for longer than we've actually understood what frequency or radio waves are. And the like the really funny thing is that in the ham radio community, you usually talk about wavelength. This is why. This is because like it's coming from actually like building your antenna systems and whatnot, and understanding what the wavelength of some frequency is. And afterwards, we actually build a theoretically background to, like, yeah, talk about frequency spectrum or distribution, or on actually make the correlation between frequency and wavelength.
It's amazing. That's so like just mind blowing. You mentioned LoRa. What is LoRa?
So LoRa, it's a transport protocol for wireless communication. The fundamental of it is that it aims to be like a very low power and long distance communication platform. It's mainly designed to be used in embedded system, which is low power devices. And due to its nature, it's also like very low bandwidth. So you cannot send something like an image of a LoRa. It doesn't make sense. But you can send small measurements, like for example, temperature measurement or position.
Okay, so small measurements, long distance, small messages, text messages. That okay.
So within the LoRa protocol, so LoRa is just like this transport layer. It's basically, if I make the analogy where us having a discussion today, LoRa would be I'm using my voice. Whatever protocol we're talking on top of that voice, for example, English in this case, you have different implementation. You can use LoRaWAN, you can use Meshtastic, which is one of the most popular ones. And then on top of that, the information that you convey, in the particular case of Meshtastic, you have well-defined application protocols. For example, to send a position, to send a text message. And well, my friend over there, he's giving a talk on Meshtastic, and as a demo, we actually want to send a bitfin transaction therein.
That's really cool. I have heard a little bit about Meshtastic, but now I wish that I was watching the ton. So that I can just ask you, what are some of the other like features of Meshtastic? What is Meshtastic?
So for a civilian, completely, it's like a very easy to use tool, right? You have many accessible communication technology. Like wireless communication technologies, but Meshtastic has this appeal that you don't need a license to use it. You can just like buy some hardware, and the protocol is made in such a way that you cannot really pollute the environment, right? So it's like this very easy to entry, very low entry level to get you into like wireless communication, like do it yourself. And like one of the examples I can probably show to you. We have this small device with a screen and a keyboard, and yeah, like you can start chatting. That's
Cool. Now this is separate than ham radio, or is it?
yes. So, well, the thing is that whenever you have some radio communications, it's probably ham somewhere. Um, what's important to understand is that ham is the only extra thing you get as a ham is that you get to pass a license. And in order to pass this license, you need to show some technical competence. So the way it usually goes is that you follow some course, you follow some training, and this like more rigorous training, as in you learn about frequencies, how do waves propagate, yeah, for example. So you have this additional knowledge that you don't have if you just purchase a device from eBay and send messages, right? But yeah, like Meshtastic was built by a community of passionate people that probably went from ham radio. And actually, Meshtastic has ham radio mode, when it will increase the power budget, so you will be able to issue transmit more power if you have a ham radio license.
Okay, cool. And so this license, I'm guessing it's like national borders, how each one has their own license, because like the actual radio waves go far beyond borders.
That's actually a great question. So the way it works is that we have the International Telecommunications Organization, so ITU, right? So ITU defines what amateur radio is and represents us to like allocate frequencies globally. So regardless of where you are, you can like still use ham as a hobby, or you are free to practice ham, right? And also like make sure it doesn't interfere with whatever new protocols are coming in, like they take this political place at the global scale, right? And then from ITU YARU, you have the different sections. The first by continent, I'm not so sure exactly what the scope of it, and then you have like the national organizations, which are one per country, and it's usually under the domain of whatever entity is regulating frequencies in that country. But the really nice thing about it is that because you have this overheading organization, is that now if you pass a license in one country, you can like usually there are accords to make your license valid in a different country. Like for example, if you have an European license, it's actually called a CEPT license, and with the CEPT you can go anywhere in Europe and just like follow some rules, but still use your license without needing to apply for a local license or needing to pass the exam again.
Okay. I love the do-it-yourself nature of all of this, like licensing aside, but the actual technology is available. There's even some alternatives that you can do, like LoRa without the
yeah, and like
license.
to make a comparison is like driving a car, right? When you drive a car, you need a driver's license, but concretely, there's people who they never been asked for the license in life, right? You only need a license when you do something wrong, kind of, right? When the police gonna stop you for speeding or something like that. So it's kind of the same vibe. The license proves competence because the RF spectrum is a shared resource that we need to protect, we need to preserve, and the mechanism of governments for protecting resources is issuing regulation, right? So, like, it's this mechanism is there to make sure that the people who can purchase the hardware, they are competent enough to know how to use it.
Mm-hmm. Right. So it's about competency more than it is trying to like
Yes.
censor or.
Yes, it's
Okay.
more about competence.
I see.
And so a very funny thing is that you also see this in hacker circles, as in hackers who understand how radio frequency works. You also understand how to, like, for example, jam messages or something like that. But if you go to a hacker conference and try to jam the Wi-Fi, some people are gonna look at you very, very hardly. So.
Yeah, right. Like it's a self-regulating kind of
Exactly.
community. Gotcha. Now let's get into encryption a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So can you broadcast encrypted messages through?
No. The spirit of the ham radio community is that you do it to learn for the technical knowledge, right? So any message you send, it should be decodable by any ham radio operator. Like those are the ground rules. If you're gonna use the shared resource, everybody should be able to take profit from whatever is you're sending, right? Which is also kind of funny because digital signatures, they fall in this gray area where yes, you can read them, but you don't know what they are. Right. So encryption is totally forbidden. Now, something some people don't understand is that encryption is just a mechanism for privacy, right? And in the radio frequency spectrum, you don't need encryption to be private, to have privacy. And actually, literacy in like how radio frequency works is going to give you this knowledge if, like, for whatever use case you have in mind.
I see. This is fascinating. It's so cool. Like I said, I knew a little about ham radio, but not any of this.
Yeah.
So then we also mentioned PGP.
Yes.
And you were part of a workshop here on PGP.
Yeah.
And I think this is super cool because like PGP has been around for a long time. PGP has been used by cypherpunks for a long time, and it's had a real problem with adoption. And now we have a lot of new shiny end-to-end encrypted messaging platforms and things. But really, PGP is also like paired key encryption. And was it kind of the beginning of paired key encryption? Or?
So there's one important aspect about PGP is that PGP doesn't care about transport. PGP is just standard for how we encrypt messages, and like it's a bit opinionated on who we're encrypting to. Like, for example, you have user IDs which correspond to I know you as some name and some email address, and like so you have all these notions which are baked into PGP. But it's regardless of transport, like you can use emails, but theoretically you can send, I actually send PGP signed messages through Signal or through Telegram because like the information I want to certify is that important, right? So in comparison with, for example, Signal, which is also end-to-end encrypted, I mean, if you trust the ratchet mechanism and so on, well, this is one application, right? So you can use this as communication layer, but not... It's very dependent on how they distribute the information, the CDN, the infrastructure provided by Signal, or when you have other anonymity technologies, for example, Dark Prague, they are also prescriptive on what transport, what the transport layer is.
Gotcha. So, like, you can actually use PGP to. You mentioned signing messages, which is really powerful.
Yeah.
But then also, like, you could encrypt the message before sending it through Signal,
correct.
and then the Signal message would be encrypted. Someone would copy that, paste it into something that allows them to then read it.
Yes.
So it's they know it's addressed to them, they know it's from you, and then they can...
So, basically, in PGP you have PGP messages, right? And what's usually done is when you encrypt a message, you also sign the message. Most clients will do that by default. But if you know how the tool works, the standard doesn't actually require you to sign. You can use PGP as means to certify information that later you cannot repudiate because, like, this is your public key and you've signed this message. The date is somewhat... so you have metadata, for example, you have the date at which you sign, but you know you can control your clock, so that it's completely meaningless. But then, for example, you can use encryption, and then the encrypted message contains the message and the signature.
Cool. It's really cool. So PGP has been around for a long time. What happened to it? Why is it not like the main thing that people are using? What's your opinions on this?
So yeah, it's been around for a very long time. But the problem is that the UI, that the implementations we have. So PGP is a specification, and there we have multiple clients which are implementing this specification. The most widely known is probably GNU-PG, but you also have OpenPGP GAS, which runs in the browser, and some others, right? But unfortunately, for the use cases that we'd be interested in, GNU-PG has a horrible UI, user experience. Like, even if you know what you're doing, it's still really confusing. And other implementations, they don't really solve the issue, right? So there's a UX problem, and also like as a technology developer, one of the really hard things one of the biggest challenges is that you know how the tool works, right? So you know exactly where to poke it, and to you it works. But when you're building tools that somebody else will use, you also need to try and think about their state of mind, or like how they will approach the tool. And this is really hard to do, right? Yeah, so that's been one of the issues. And like nowadays we have a shiny new toy, which is Sequoia, which is a new implementation, Rust and all the all the hype things. But the most important thing is that it's an implementation thought out from scratch. So the command line is made in such a way that it's at least a bit more intuitive, more approachable to the user, and it's also hard to make mistakes, right? So same by default. But yeah, like this is still not enough, right? Because this is a command line tool. What people need are not command line tools. They need applications. They need a graphical UI where you can type a message, you can click on verify, and you can have like a green mark saying, yes, this message is authentic. Or you can click on a button that says encrypt, and then you have the encryption result, right?
Super cool. So this is Sequoia. This is the newest implementation.
Yeah, Sequoia, but Sequoia only does command line.
But it's only command line.
Yeah.
So I love the name. Like Sequoia, we've been talking a lot about Dark Forest. And in fact, there's a zine right here called Dark Forest. Sequoia's the giant redwoods that are all interconnected through their roots. So a Sequoia grove is an actual organism. And I believe that like a Sequoia grove is actually the largest living organism on the planet.
Okay.
Or at least I'd heard that at some point, and I buy it. These trees are gigantic, and they're all interconnected. So I'm digging the name. It totally vibes with the Dark Forest. And I can use a command line, so I'm looking forward to checking it out. And I think our audience is pretty nerdy, so we could even do like a workshop on it. I think it'd be really cool, like do an online workshop type of thing. So how do people get into PGP? Where do you usually point people when they want to learn more about PGP and maybe start using it?
I don't have a great answer to that because like, the way I approach PGP, I actually come more from math, so everything I discover is usually because there's like something fundamental about it that it's important to me, right? So I enter to PGP through kind of, okay, this is the tool that it's standard, so then start reading the documentation, but that's completely unapproachable, right? Yeah, like I couldn't give you any advice on how to approach it. Maybe what I can tell you is that participate to signing parties and talk with people, because you usually find competent people, at least one or two. They've done some digging or they've understood some concept, and yeah, by talking with them, you'll grow your knowledge.
Yeah. Just go to in-person gatherings, go to key signing parties, go to crypto parties, talk to people, feed that curiosity, and take your own approach. Gotcha. And then ham radio, how would you suggest people find out more about ham radio?
Ham radio is actually more approachable in the sense that there are, well, tons of tutorials, but most important is that you don't need to trust the tutorials, right? To get into ham radio, you just need to start listening, and listening is really easy. Like you can, like the lowest level, you can get a $20 receiver from eBay, whatever, AliExpress. And start listening to the waves and like be curious about, oh, I know that, the radio that I have in my car, I can probably listen to it, right? And there's a lot of signals out there, so there's a lot for you to explore. And once you're ready to start making the transition to, okay, now I want to transmit my own information, now I want to learn. Hams are relatively common, so there's probably a ham radio club somewhere near you. And what I will tell people is that you gotta be patient with the with people who are usually part of these clubs, because like you have this different innovation, right? People have this notion that ham radio is for old people. This is not true, but it's also true that, well, but it is true rather that a lot of the people in the ham radio clubs, they are usually a bit more aged. Right.
Cool. I love the fact that there's ham radio clubs.
Yes.
Like, I think this is really cool. Find one near you and just go and ask questions and be patient and learn. Even show up and just listen and probably learn a lot that way as well.
Yeah.
Neat. I have a feeling that there's a bunch of other stuff we could talk about, but I hope to run into you in the future at other events, maybe at a future Dark Prague or something else, and we can carry on because, like you mentioned, satellites, which
Yeah.
is super cool. So yeah, this is really awesome. How do people find out more? Like, how can people follow you or find out more about like what you're up to?
I'm a bit of a hermit actually.
Okay,
I don't even
that's-
have Twitter. So
Awesome.
come to conferences.
Yeah, yeah. Come to Dark Prague.
Yeah,
right?
come to Dark Prague and yeah.
Nice. How has Dark Prague been for you?
It's the first time I'm coming. It's the second time I come to Parallelipolis. I've always heard about this event, and like to me, this place is kind of I don't know, legendary in a way. But until recently, I started traveling and actually coming to conferences. Right, for a very long time, I stayed kind of in my reduced community, in like the circle of people I know or I get to know through other people, right? But yeah, I like coming to events. It's there's quite a bunch of people whom I already know, so that makes it great. And yeah, I got to spontaneously start talking, for example, with you, and that's really fun. It's been fun.
Awesome. I'm so happy that we got to talk, and thanks for joining us on the recording station.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks.